Hey Spark, I hope you are well. We are right dab smack in the middle of our series, Community Conversations. This is part 3, and I want to begin today with a story. For 3 years, there was a teacher who taught in a way that astounded people. When he taught, people really paid attention because he was teaching in a way and saying things that had not been heard before. He talked about loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself. He talked about caring for those who were marginalized. He talked about if you had wealth and access that you should share that with those who do not. He talked about that even when you were persecuted, that God was still for you. When he talked, he astounded people. His message spread throughout his hometown and his region. So much so that when he was about to leave, he told his 11 followers, there's work still to do here, and I want you to spread that work throughout the world. Now, his 11 followers had good intentions, but here's where the story begins to break down. His 11 followers begin to fight about how to continue their teacher's work. They argue about who should be in the community and not in the community. They argue about what are the requirements to be a part of this community. They argue about who should spread the good news. They argue about everything. And meanwhile, the master gave them one command: spread this word throughout the entire world. This story is the story of the early church. It's the story of the disciples and the Apostle Paul when they're taking the message of Christ after he leaves them and spreads the message throughout the known world. The story has many bumps and turns in it because the disciples and the Apostle Paul miss opportunities to really be community. And it brings up a good point for us as we enter this part 3 of this series, talking about knowing when to put the needs of the team above our own needs. Knowing when to put the needs of the team above our own needs. Now, as many of you know, I teach high school, and one of the things, without a doubt, that is the hardest to do every year is to get teenagers to work together in groups. Every year, it is difficult to get teens to work in groups. I have teens that fall into one of 4 categories. One, you have the person who thinks that they know everything and that they should be the one who's in charge of the group. You have the other person who has a lot of good ideas, but is not as charismatic as the lead person, so they sit back and keep all their ideas to themselves. You have the other person who says, you know what, since they're going to be in charge anyway and they want to have all control anyway, I'll just sit here and play. And then that one person who says, can I please do this work by myself and not be forced to work with these people? Every year, without a doubt, collaborating and working together as a team is a challenge for teenagers. But it's a skill that we must cultivate because we have to know how to work as a team. Teamwork is essential to building community, and knowing when to put the needs of the team above our own needs is essential. Now, it's hard work. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy to work as a team. But I think being a team makes us do 3 important things. It makes us do things that we would not ordinarily do. Say things that might challenge us. And go places that we wouldn't ordinarily go. Because being a team means that we put aside sometimes our own desires for the good of the whole. So we do things, we say things, and we go places that would not ordinarily be in our wheelhouse. But we do it for the good of the team. That brings me to this story that I love. One of my favorite movies is Apollo 13, based on the story of the Apollo 13 mission. Now, if you, like me, love history movies, you know that the Apollo 13 mission was to take a journey to outer space and land on the moon. 3 astronauts took a journey leaving the comfort of home, headed towards outer space, headed towards the moon. Now, they each had certain jobs. They had trained for years to do a specific job on that ship. They're heading up towards outer space, and then the unthinkable happens. from it, they have a choice to make. They can stick to what they were trained to do, their original job, their original purpose, or they can adapt to the needs of the team. The team has one new mission now, and that's to get home safely. But they could have stayed stuck on what they were trained to do. I am the engineer. I am the pilot. I am the cook. I am the one who measures pressure and atmosphere. They could have stayed with what they were trained to do, or they could say, here's our new mission as a team. Our mission is to get home safely. There's one line in the movie that I always love. It's when they're all debating back in Mission Control how to get these guys home. The engineers are arguing with the scientists. The scientists are arguing with the pilots. They're all sitting in the room arguing. And the guy comes in from Mission Control and says, I don't care what this ship was designed to do. I care what this ship can do. And right there, you see a switch. They stop arguing about what their titles are, and they say, how can we work together? How can we put aside egos and titles and positions? How can we come together to get these guys home? Now, if you, like me, love history, you know that these three astronauts made it home safely. But it required them to go outside the box and do things they hadn't done before, say things they hadn't said before, and go where they hadn't gone before. It required them to put the needs of the team above their own needs. Now, as we continue to love and grow as a ministry together, we're going to sometimes be in one of these two stories. There are times where we'll be like the disciples and the Apostle Paul, where we will argue over everything. We'll argue over how to move forward as a youth ministry. And there are times where we're going to get it right. It'll be like Apollo 13, where we'll come together for the good of the team. And that's okay. We're not perfect. We're going to get it wrong, and we're going to get it right sometimes. But it's important to remember that if we're going to build community, if we're going to be a light in a world that is so often dark, that we have to say, how can we best love God and love people? And sometimes that's doing things that are uncomfortable, saying things that are uncomfortable, and going places that are uncomfortable. Be blessed, Spark. Have a good week.